Listen to my podcast about sports, about sports, about sports.
Shippity bop bop. What is up, C Money?
Dude, just got finished watching the Aggies kick Kentucky's ass. I mean, I'm
Dude,
talking ass whooping.
what a game. What a game. I love it, man, because you took one for the team today.
Yep, I
Took
bet
one
on Kentucky.
That's right. Put the money on
Right.
Kentucky. Boom. Automatic win.
Happy to lose money.
Brother, what a game. What a game. Look. Howdy, Ags from the Tailgate, home of Aggie Football, and today, a little bit of basketball. Today's episode brought to you by Matthews Electric, full-service electrical contractor in the Brazos Valley. No job too big, no job too small. Call Blaine at 979-220-6403. Light up your home, light up your life. Corey?
Yeah.
Start right there, man, with little Aggie basketball that literally just ended, man. Yeah. Overtime win over Kentucky, number 6 in the country, at Reed Arena. You know, honestly, from the tip in this game, it was a different energy for this team compared to the last couple of ball games in the SEC, don't you think?
Well, yeah, they shot the ball better. Whenever they're making shots, they play better. I mean, that's just how it works. It's nothing they did any different. They always play hard. Those guys, it's Buzz gets a good group of guys to play hard. It looked like Boots was healthy. Solo's back. I mean, they're an athletic bunch. They crashed the boards. I mean, I'll tell you what, that second half right there towards the end of the game, they were just killing Kentucky on the boards. Shot after shot, they missed. They get the rebound, kick it out. Hustle, man, just hustle.
And that's in spite of the fact that they were completely outsized by Kentucky, right? I mean, inside the fact of the matter is we were the smaller team, but buddy, man, when it came to freaking getting offensive rebounds, that just didn't matter. Those dudes were absolutely killing on the boards. And to your point, man, and you said it earlier before we started, like the group that rotation that they started using, look, with obviously Taylor and Radford on the floor, but the combination of Garcia and Solomon and then Coleman or Levesque, I thought that combination was incredible. I thought defensively it was our best group, because they're also athletic, right? Even the big
rebounding too. I mean, you get Wade and Boots, 2 guys you want to shoot the ball. You got 3 big bodies to go in there and get the rebounds. And Garcia, Solo, and Coleman and Levesque, those 4 guys can rebound with the best of them.
Yeah, and here's the other part, aside from, look, Taylor's a little bit of a liability defensively, right, on that team. He's definitely the weak point on that defense. He's the weak link. But aside from him, man, the other 4 guys are really good defenders, and really 5 of them, right? The other 5. Really good defenders, no matter who you've got on the court with that group, right? And athletic enough to guard smaller to bigger.
Exactly. That's what I love about it. They're interchangeable. It's almost like we call it in the NBA, it's a 3 and D kind of guy. Like they can shoot threes and play D. I think Garcia can shoot a few threes, Solo maybe a little bit, but for the most part, you just want to play on defense and rebound. I'll tell you what, that's probably one of the worst officiated games I've seen in a while. That was
they were trying to give calls. They were trying to give it to Kentucky.
Yeah, I mean that 3 Boots hit, and they called him a foul, kicking his leg out. I was like, horrible. And then they called it back the other way and I mean, it's just, I don't know, man. It was just weird the way that officiating went.
But that also tells you a little bit something about this team, because in spite of those calls, they didn't falter, right? They didn't falter.
Right.
And they pulled it out anyway, right? They finished. And you could see Buzz telling them, don't worry about it. He was pissed about the calls. He thought the calls were bad. But instead of sitting there focusing on the officials, he went to the team and he said, don't worry about it. Let's go play, right?
Right.
And that's big. And that team, because of the experience that they have, Taylor, and how, Radford, they kept talking about him, one of the most experienced basketballs in all of college basketball, right? Basketball players in all of college basketball.
He's been playing for 7 years in A&M or something like that in college.
Coleman, another guy, so they've got that experience. They've got guys that stay in it, right? That and play hard, incredibly hard. I cannot say enough about Anderson Garcia and Solo, because those two dudes to me, and they're not the same player, right? But those two dudes to me though are the heart and soul of this team to a certain extent. Obviously Taylor and Radford are the scorers, the guys that take care of business, get the points on the board, right? But those two other guys kind of just do all the dirty work, don't they?
Oh yeah, absolutely. They do the dirty work. I'll tell you what this game does. It gives me hope. After those first two SEC games and a couple of the out of conference games, you're like, what's going on? But
Yeah,
they beat Kentucky. I mean, yeah, it was at home, but still, I mean, they can play with Auburn. They can play with anybody in this league, and they can beat anybody. They showed it last year. It's damn near the same team they had last year, minus Marble and what the guy's name is in the NBA, Greenway, Dennis, Victor Dennis. So without them two, I mean,
you're absolutely right, and hope is the key word there. Right now, they got to come out and play. But to me, this is the other thing. I think this is maybe the first game this season where Wade Taylor looked like Wade Taylor. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean, his shot, he looked smooth, confident. He seemed like he's been forcing things. I mean, he forced a few today.
He did.
But he's going to do that. But he got in rhythm in a few shots. I mean, it just could be playing Kentucky. Guys get up for those kind of games. It happens.
It's time for him to start playing like the preseason SEC Player of the Year. It is time for him to come out and start dominating basketball games. And I think it helps to have Radford back healthy there on that team next to him, because Radford's the guy that can sort of calm things down when Wade Taylor gets a little out of control, like he has a tendency to do at times, right? Radford's the guy that can then sort of put the team back on his back. And you saw a couple of those drives to the basket, man, with Radford. I mean, the way he finished, it's like unbelievable, the fact that those balls go in sometime. But even when they don't, our guys are right there to rebound, because the defense has to come in and help so much on Radford, right? I mean, it's an incredible combination. If those two guys are playing like they played today, there's not anybody in the SEC or maybe even the country that this team can't compete against.
Right. Absolutely. That's what I was meant to say. Yeah, anybody in the nation. I mean, they got the size with those guys up front when they have that combination. When Boots and Wade are scoring, yeah, they just need to attack, to stay aggressive, stay out of foul trouble. Those two especially, and that's great. I mean, they look great.
First
I had a
SEC
question
win.
for you. Is there anything? Hey, was there any news in football this week? I didn't know. I heard a couple things.
Yeah, we're going to transition there. Just to finish off the basketball thing, first SEC win for the Aggies, 1-2 in the conference. They just, it's got to be one game at a time for this group, right? They've got to go just one game at a time. Go, just like last year, right? I don't think going into conference play, nobody expected this team to be in competing for the conference championship and whether regular season or the SEC tournament. I think that they just have to go out one game at a time, go play it. And at the end of the season, they have to be there though, right? Their record off, in non-conference and even to start this thing wasn't good enough for them to go, middle of the pack, I don't think, in the SEC. I think they're going to have to be towards the top of the SEC to make this tournament though. Don't you think?
Who they lost to? Auburn, and who was the other? Oh, they lost to
LSU.
LSU. Okay, yeah, that LSU was disappointing.
Mm-hmm. But once again, we've seen it years and years in a row now with Buzz's teams. They get better and better as they go, and they also play better in the SEC than they usually do out of conference. So,
Weird.
They're going to compete. They're going to play hard.
There you go.
All right, so let's go on to football. A couple of things Aggie related. One is, it seemed like they had their full staff complete at this point. They added all their guys and had named, all the assistant coaches. There was news basically today, I think, that maybe the cornerback coach from Auburn has decided to go stay at Auburn.
Well, you know what happened there? You know why that is? Saban's he's gonna be our new cornerbacks coach.
Yeah,
Just saying, breaking news. And
break
that's what he started out at. He was a
news.
secondary
Yeah,
coach.
they're bringing him in as an advisor. Him and Bill Belichick as advisors on the team, right?
Yeah. And then I think Pete Carroll might be on there too. I'm not sure.
Yeah,
We'll
yeah,
see.
yeah. So
Hell
so
of
he
a staff.
so no news yet exactly what's going to happen there, but basically they've got the staff together that they had retained our Gros Sarmientos from last year, and they had moved him to an off field position, but maybe he comes back and onto an on field position with this other guy leaving. Who knows what the situation is there? Either that or he goes and gets another Duke or Florida coach, maybe. I don't know. But I don't know that makes is going to make a ton of difference with regards to exactly where things stand with this team.
Hey, what's
There's
going on in
also
Alabama? Are they retaining all their coaches still, or are they all off the market too? Are they all looking for jobs since Saban quit or retired?
yeah, well, so deliver the news, baby, deliver the news. So the
What?
big piece of news in college football this week was Nick Saban retired.
That's
Woo!
huge.
Let me tell you
Huge.
that. Look, I think I think the world of Nick Saban. I think he's the best coach that's ever done it. I think the dude has absolutely dominated college football for as long as you can think, as you can remember right now. The guy, not only that, the guy did it with, and there no scandals on his part, really, right? Like, everybody wants to talk about little shit or whatever, but the guy, in all
Mhm.
honesty, no scandals, just did it the right way. And this past year, his last year coaching, I thought may have been his best year coaching because the talent on this team wasn't anywhere near what it was on some of the prior teams. And those guys made it all the way to the college football playoff. They beat Georgia in the SEC title game. And they did it by adjusting what they were doing in the middle of the season. What they, you talk about Jalen Milroe getting better offensively, but that defense, who over the last couple of years had been a little bit maligned, all of a sudden, took an incredible step forward this year and sort of dominated the way they played. I am thoroughly impressed with everything he did as a coach and through his tenure there at Alabama, at LSU. I think we're losing one of the legends of the sport, right? But he's 72 years old, so hey man, go retire, go enjoy a little bit. Because the thing that I do think caused him to retire ultimately is the fact that in this game today, there is absolutely no time off. And we've talked about it. A college coach works much harder than an NFL coach these days, head coach, because they're, with NIL and the transfer portal and recruiting and all that type spring ball, there is no time off for a college football coach. None. Jimbo Fisher said it in his interview a couple of weeks ago when, he finally came out and talked a little bit about everything. And, he talked about that. And I think for Saban, that was part of the deal. The other part of the deal, I think, for Saban was, and he'll never try to make it about this, right? But I do think that, and I agree with him, that the money has changed this game, right? It's changed sort of what coaches' roles are to a certain extent. Their focus, instead of being on development of players, right? Bringing freshmen to sophomores to juniors to seniors to out the door to the NFL, that has changed, or that focus has changed. Well, it shouldn't have. It has changed to what can you give me, right? How much money can you pay me? What are you going to do for me? Yada, 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 right? And, and anybody can, I'm not saying I'm against players getting paid, people making money, but it has changed the game. And I don't care what anybody says. It's changed the game, right?
Absolutely has. And I agree with you about Saban being his best coaching job because he didn't have. I mean, you look at that team. There might be some first round picks on the lines, D line and O line, but skill positions, you don't have the quarterback or the receivers you're used to seeing, the running backs going in the first round. He just lost one of their top receivers. He's transferring out Bond or whatever. He was their number two receiver. It's gonna be hard. I mean, I know they hired the guy DeBoer to replace him. How would you like to replace Nick Saban? Can't be easy.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. Let me and I'm going to get into DeBoer for sure because I actually love the hire. By the way, I do. I absolutely
Oh
think
yeah,
he did about as that's about as good a hire as they could. I mean, given the fact that you're replacing who you're replacing, I don't know. I don't know who they could have gotten that's better, right?
I was thinking Jimbo, but I wasn't sure. That's what my first thought. I was like, we're going after
I think there was
Jimbo.
some. I think there was a few Aggies trying to start those rumors, like, "Oh, Alabama's going after Jimbo." Yeah, no,
Jimbo.
Jimbo's
They
phone has
forced they
not
forced
rung.
Saban out.
Jimbo's phone has not rang since he got fired here at A&M. At least not with a call from an AD asking him to come be a coach. Anyway,
Yeah,
look, uh, and it is an opportunity for Aggies here because there are some players. There's a five-star wide receiver recruit that didn't sign his letter of intent yet. That was going to sign in February. He's opened up his recruiting and is coming to A&M to check out the campus and things. So there are some opportunities there for them to try to go get some of these pieces that maybe enter the transfer portal. Alabama. We did hire their wide receivers coach, so that could also help the cause.
that's
But
true.
to go get some of these guys that we think have a potential to be productive. Another really good cornerback just entered the transfer portal. Cornerback,
From
we like
Washington.
corners. Those guys. We'd love to have one of those guys over here. Wouldn't say no to that. So it is going to open up some opportunities for the A&M staff, and they to go find a couple of pieces maybe that to just lock up this transfer portal class and sort of get it. Finalize it, right? Get it out.
Yeah, I agree. Absolutely.
Before we go to the transfer portal class, because that's a big topic also. Elko and his guys have done a great job, I think, of putting this group together. DeBoer, I do want to hit DeBoer, and I want to hit college football in general here as this is happening, right? Because, the moment that the word came out, obviously everybody was like, okay, who's going to be that replacement? And folks were talking Lanning, folks were talking Sark over there at Texas, right? Kiffin, Dabo Sweeney, who's an Tide alum, right? Tide alum.
Norvell. They talked about Norvell from Florida
Bell over
State.
at Florida State, and I think there's nothing better for coaches than when a big job comes open because everybody gets a raise, right?
Yeah, Norvell
Everybody
just
gets
got
a
a
raise.
huge one. Yeah, Norvell he just cashed in. He just got 10 mil a season. And they
Yeah,
just got hit with all those penalties too. So Florida State's it's gonna be a rough job over there.
yeah,
God.
and it's funny, like they come out and say like, "Oh yeah, I'm not going anywhere." The fact of the matter is, and I'm sort of told, I've been told from some inside sources that the fact is that none of those guys were getting the job anyway. You know what I mean? None of those jobs
Mhm.
were getting the job anyway. I think there was some. I do. I think there was some interest with Lanning for sure. I think that's real.
Yeah.
Um,
What
I
about
think
Dabo? Was that real?
DeBoer was their choice anyway, and I think he was probably their choice, maybe even with Lanning or above Lanning for that matter.
Mm. Well, he's won everywhere he's gone. He's a good coach. He took Washington to the national championship game this year. But you know what's crazy? Okay, DeBoer leaves Washington, Alabama. Saban's gone from Alabama. Harbaugh, they haven't said yet. Is he coming back or is he? I mean, he might be gone to the pros. I mean, three of the top four coaches that in the college football playoff might be gone.
Yeah, different places at least,
Crazy.
right?
Yeah.
And that's a great point. You think with Harbaugh, that's going to have to happen here pretty soon because you wouldn't think that he's just going to leave Michigan out on a lurch after his alma mater or whatever, right? And so
Right.
if he's leaving, you think that's going to happen pretty quickly. You haven't really heard, especially with the Saban thing. I mean, you really haven't heard anything about Harbaugh. But to me, I mean, the dude just won a national championship at his alma mater, man. You know
Mm-hmm.
what?
Yeah.
How do you leave that? How do you leave that?
Jim Harbaugh, he'll leave it anyway. He didn't care. I mean, look all the crap he went through this year. He's only on the sideline for. I mean, he missed what 8 games or something silly.
Six,
He only coached like, huh?
six,
Was it 6? I mean, still, he
a
missed
lot.
half the season.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, but it is what it is. The news. I mean, like you were saying about the transfer portal, that kid from Mississippi State, Rogers, the quarterback, he's back in the portal again.
Yeah,
Uh,
he had committed to Washington, right? And then with the
yeah.
portal leaving, now he's back in the portal. And I don't blame him because you don't know what Washington's going to do. You get in now. If Washington hires somebody you like, you can go back, right?
Now Washington, I mean, they lost like 2 or 3 wide receivers going to the NFL. Quarterback's done. Coach is gone. Washington's moving to the Big Ten next year. What are you expecting for Washington next year?
Those guys have got to be on the phone with the offensive coordinator right now, and they've got to lock him up as their new head coach, right? I don't think that's even a like they don't even make another call. I don't think they even make another call.
I mean, that's a big move going from the Pac-12 to the Big Ten. I mean, that's
Look,
big. I mean, and
you
you
lock
lose your
up that
coach, your
coordinator, and
quarterback,
you
your
get that coordinator to get Rodgers back on the phone. Hey, look, nothing's changing here. We're gonna
yeah,
do it. We're gonna sling it. You're about to go put up Heisman numbers. Let's go. Let's go run it back, man. Not to
right. I mean,
mention,
I'm just saying. He's
not to mention, Rodgers as a quarterback and a player, by the way, doesn't have a ton of options because a bunch of everybody else has already filled those spots too, right? So like a
yeah,
lot of the open sort of big quarterback spots have been filled. So
because he's not following DeBoer to Alabama. He's not going to beat out Milrow, right?
there's a rumor Milrow might be entering the transfer portal.
Really?
Rumor.
Wonder where he would go.
If I'm him, I'm not going anywhere. DeBoer's a freaking magician with quarterbacks.
Well, I mean, it's just crazy. This whole transfer portal, everything, the way it works. Coaches leave, players are allowed to leave. So Rogers, they were saying something I didn't understand it. So Rogers left Mississippi State this year. He transferred. So is this counting as a second transfer once he leaves Washington?
Mm-hmm. But
Does that change anything?
no, because right now there's that provision where players can transfer as many times as they want to without any consequence.
Huh.
Um, so it doesn't really matter. And it opens, and the reason that the transfer portal opened for him is because the coach left, right? Otherwise, the transfer portal wouldn't be open for Washington. But for
Also, did
players,
you? No, I hear what you're saying. Did you read the article about Florida State and their penalties? What's going on? They got all these restrictions. They're not allowed to use NIL or something for like a year or two. Did you see that?
I didn't look at the details as of yet, but I'll tell you this. I mean, look, that program's on its way down next year,
Yeah,
right? I mean, they've
but
obviously, their two best weapons on the outside at wide receiver. The quarterback's gone. The receivers are gone. They've lost so much on the defense, the big time defensive end, and some of the other players are out of there. Like Norvell took advantage of that situation with the talent level that they had, and they had a big season. But at the end of the day, without all that talent, Norvell's not exactly, he's not Nick Saban, right? He's not going to take that team back to another undefeated season next year just because of the fact that it's Norvell. I mean, those guys are going to crater next year, I think.
if you can't use NIL, can you compete in recruiting right now at all?
No, no chance. No
I mean,
chance.
seriously. I mean, if you
What are you
can't say, "Hey,
what are you going
you're
to
going to get
offer?
paid,"
What are you going to offer those players, right? I mean, nothing. There's nothing you can do to
yeah, I
offer.
mean, but that's what's crazy. I mean, and if they're getting NIL restrictions, I don't see how you can recruit unless a player just really wants to come to Florida State.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's gonna be a struggle for them for sure.
Hmm.
You can go back to the old system where you're hiding the money. I guess I don't know.
You're going to have to.
Amen, brother.
Yeah.
You ain't cheating, you ain't trying, right? So
So
let's
what?
talk a little bit about DeBoer here, man, because
Okay.
look, I have a very good feeling that Washington is going to go after that offense coordinator. I would expect that announcement's going to come soon. I don't see, I don't see why it wouldn't happen. So let's assume that's true. Look, DeBoer at Alabama. Look, for about 2 days there, I think a lot of the SEC fan bases were excited about the fact that look, finally we get out from underneath this Nick Saban sort of shadow. Man, that dude's been dominating this conference for 17 years or whatever it's been, or longer than that maybe. And so everybody got excited about Nick Saban out the door. I think everybody's still excited about Nick Saban getting out the door, but I think DeBoer taking that job gives them some credibility about how they're moving forward. Don't you think so?
Yeah, I mean, just think it's awkward that Saban leaves. You get DeBoer. What's your expectations for DeBoer? Is it still to? I mean, if Alabama lost one game in a season, everybody was pissed off. Like, oh, I mean, what's going to happen now? The fans going to be sitting there saying national championship every year with DeBoer. I mean, he just went with Washington. It's the first time he's gone, right?
We
So, I
will
mean, what are your
find out.
expectations?
We will find out. We will find out very quickly. I'm not even talking about this coming football season in 2024. I'm not even talking about that. I think they'll probably be very good, by the way. I think DeBoer is an excellent coach. He won championships when he was at NAIA, right? And he did a
Right?
great job with those groups. And then, everywhere he's been, he's made those teams better. He's going to come over to Alabama. The thing about it is that there's probably going to, there's going to be some changes. But here's the thing. He's also a guy that's kind of like Nick Saban in the sense Saban's defensive oriented. He's offensive, but he's kind of like Nick Saban in the sense that he's one of those just serious and get to work kind of guys. You watch him on the sidelines, always very stoic. He's a guy that, has a good, you can tell has a good relationship with his players. He's not going off the freaking rails and blowing up and shit. He's a guy he's a worker, right? He's a guy that hey, we're going to come in, we're going to get to work. And in that sense, he's very much like Nick Saban. Now, obviously his focus is on the offensive side of the ball, which is different, right? But I don't know that the culture in that sense is going to change that much. I think he's going to be able to use that culture that Nick Saban has left there and try to continue to push that forward. But he's going to have to do some hiring, right? He's going to have to go find himself a defensive coordinator. Their defensive coordinator just retired also, by the way. He decided to retire. And I thought he was a big part of all the, the way that defense played this year. That's Kevin Steele, right?
Steele,
The way
right? Yeah.
that defense played this year. I thought he was great. He was an improvement from the guy that was there last year who's over at Ole Miss. So,
You think DeBoer will have any problems recruiting at Alabama, or you think he's going to be all right?
and so that's why I said you don't find out here in 24 season. When you're going to find out whether this program is going to stay is about a year from now when you have a pretty good idea of the 2025 recruiting class. Because if Alabama's still at 1-2, then forget about it. Forget about it. Because he's just going to continue this ship and he's just going to continue to ride it, right? He may not win every SEC championship like Nick Saban did, but he's going to be in competition for everyone for the next 10 years. You know what I mean? And
Yeah,
and
I mean, I
so,
think just Saban retiring, I think it helps Auburn. I think it helps a lot of the teams in the SEC out a lot. But Auburn, I mean, just recruiting wise, just around that area, geez.
yeah, let's talk a little SEC football because here's the thing, right? I mean, Auburn, there's some rumors that there's something funky going on over there at Auburn.
What
The
do you mean?
defensive coordinator, left, took a job at demotion, right? Like the offensive coordinator's been fired and your boy's taking over play calling duties. It seems like he hasn't done a very good job of bringing the staff together over there at Auburn this year. And there's a little bit of discord with regards to the folks that he's got there.
Ah,
Obviously, it doesn't matter. He's going to have to do it on the field. But I'm with that sort of turmoil. I don't know that Auburn's going to take the leap that a lot of folks think they're going to take in year two. And we still don't know who the quarterback's going to be over there, do we?
no, I don't know. But what I do know, Hugh Freeze has won pretty much everywhere he's gone. He did a better job at Auburn this year, except for the loss to New Mexico State than what I thought he was going to do. And they were competitive in a lot of games, A lot of games I didn't think they were like the Alabama game. They should have won that game.
Yeah, in some of those games they were competitive because of their defense, and their defense coordinator's gone.
Yeah, but I'm not worried. I mean, like I said, you freeze. I mean, he's won at Ole Miss when he didn't have. He brought that team together. He did great job at Liberty. That's why he got the job at Auburn. I think he's going to be fine.
Who
I
played
think that
quarterback for him at Ole Miss when they were winning all those games?
was the kid's name. Is he in the pros playing at Tennessee or something now? What's his name? I can't remember his name. But anyway, that's just how it is. Liberty got the quarterback. I mean, you got a good quarterback. You have a system, right? He knew that. That's why he went and got him.
Yeah, I do think. Look, I thought when he was hired, I thought it was a good hire for Ole Miss in a football sense. I'm not really a Hugh Freeze guy. I think that he's always got some kind of something following him as far as like some sort of turmoil or whatever. I don't know. There's something always off. But clearly he
You're just
did
a
a great
hater.
job at
You're
Ole
just a
Miss.
hater. It's all. You're just a hater. You're just a hater.
Football guy. He does a great job with those offenses, and I expect that in time, probably he's going to do so at Auburn. I haven't seen it yet so far, so he's still
It's
got
his
to do
first
it.
season. What
He's
do you
still
mean
got
you
to do
haven't
it.
seen it? It's his first season.
Okay.
The guy, I mean, he's the only coach in the SEC that was beating Saban on a regular basis, wasn't he? When he was at Ole
I'll
Miss.
tell you this: they got our 5-star wide receiver down there, so that's a good start.
Who?
The recruit that we had, our Coleman,
Oh,
that was
I thought
recruited.
you were talking about Evan Stewart. I was like, no, Stewart went to Oregon.
Evan Stewart, who committed to Oregon. Boy, I'll tell you what, Oregon, ready and poised for another big year next year.
Who's their quarterback?
Dylan Gabriel.
It's true.
Gabriel.
Dylan Gabriel to Evan Stewart could be seeing a lot of that on the highlights.
And they brought in the 5-star recruit from last year that committed to USC or to UCLA that's up there now too. So as a sophomore, so
wow,
they're gonna have guys, and a couple of options at the quarterback spot. Obviously, now they add Evan Stewart to that receiver room. We saw what they did in general this year. They've got talent. They had another good recruiting class. It's Oregon, so they got the Nike money behind them, NIL and everything else. Lanning said he's not leaving. He's got a good reason never to leave Oregon because he can make money after money over there and always have incentive to bring players into the program with Nike behind them, right? To me, that is a place where you can go make a career, right?
right.
And so I don't blame him for announcing that and for saying it. And I think he's truthful when he says it, right? I actually believe that he loves what he's got over there, facilities, players, and he's already started, to build that program in his image. You've got you're 2 years in, you were almost in the playoffs this year. Like, you'll be in the playoffs every year in the 12-team playoff every year going forward, right?
What? Every year?
Yeah, maybe not every.
They're going to the Big Ten now, right?
Half of the years.
Maybe. They're moving up in competition, are they not?
Yeah, they're going to the Big Ten. They're going to the Big Ten. I'll tell you this: I expect them to be better than Ohio State next year. I expect them to be better than Ohio State next year.
Oregon?
Yes.
Okay. I don't know if you drank too much last night or what.
You know who Ohio State's quarterback's going to be next year?
No.
Yeah, it's the same guy that was their shitty ass quarterback this year. And this year he had 2 of the best wide receivers in the country. He was throwing.
Hey,
both of those guys are gone.
I think I saw Will Rogers' name might be going to Ohio State. Who did I see? I saw somebody might be going to Ohio State. Might be Rogers.
Is that impressing you? Will Rogers? No. You're talking about Will Howard.
That's who it was. Will Howard from Kansas State.
Yeah,
hey,
that's the one that's going to sell you on it.
Think he would have done a better job there this year than the guy that he had.
Yeah,
I saw Howard have a good game against Missouri.
Yeah,
I don't know. I didn't watch any other games.
Look, and clearly they've still got talent around that guy, but they're losing some significant players with the wide receivers, especially their running back is leaving. So they've got some big time known performers that are leaving the program that they're going to have to replace. And like I said, the other part to this equation for me is I think Lanning's a better coach than Ryan Day, so I think they're going to overtake him.
Yeah. Okay. They might.
We'll see, and we'll see this year.
Yeah.
We'll see this year. 2024 is going to be an exciting football season, baby.
It will.
So what do you think? All right, so amongst the SEC now, you're looking at 2024 in the SEC. You've got Texas obviously coming back. Ewers is sticking around. He's already announced. You got Georgia in the mix, obviously, who's going to be the favorite. I think prohibitive favorite in the league this year.
What about Ole Miss?
Ole Miss is going to be up there, with all the talent that they brought in through the portal, including Walter Nolan, and the guys that they have coming back, right? Even though they lost Judkins, who I think is going to Ohio State, by the way. Even though they lost Judkins, they still got plenty of talent on that offense, and obviously with Kiffin calling the plays. You love Auburn and Hugh Freeze, right? So
I never said I loved them.
You
I
just
just
said
said I like Hugh Freeze. He's done a good job everywhere he's gone.
it. Mississippi State and with a new coach and Levy, right?
Not worried about them.
They're gonna be better because the guy that was there before sucked. So I
Exactly.
don't
They can't
care
help but go up.
if Levy is the second worst coach in the history of football. That's gonna be one above the guy he's replacing. So
Yeah.
they're gonna be a little bit better. So you don't expect them to really be in the mix there, but Tennessee, can Tennessee get back into that with their young quarterback and young talent? They still have weapons on the outside, right? Where does
Right.
A&M fit into this? Oklahoma, everybody's excited about the new quarterback there. They think that they can do some things. So, I mean, I think the SEC's got a chance to be exciting next year. I think it's a clear number one there with Georgia, and then there's a
Right.
group of like 6 or 7 teams sort of in that next level, like, okay, who's going to be the competition, right? What do you think?
I don't think there's 6 or 7 teams. I think there's like Georgia, like you said, Ole Miss. I think
I'm putting
Alabama's still.
Georgia in their own category. They're
Yeah,
alone.
Georgia. I'd say Georgia's number one. Then like 2, 3, and 4, I put Ole Miss up there right now. What they have coming back, what they brought in. Put Texas up there with what they have coming back, what they brought in. I'd put Alabama if
I think
they
you
keep
still have to
Milrow.
talk Alabama. Yeah, I think you still have to talk Alabama up there.
Yeah, and after that, I put them at Georgia. Then those next 3.
I think you got to
Then
include
after that,
Oklahoma in that group. I think you got to include an Oklahoma team that this past year beat Texas, by the way.
I'm not putting Oklahoma up there yet. They just lost Dylan Gabriel. They had to. I think Oklahoma's right there with A&M. Uh,
That third tier, kind of
Possibly,
a third tier.
yeah, it's like a third tier, maybe Tennessee. Uh, who am I forgetting? I don't think Auburn's up there yet. I don't think Mississippi State's up there. I don't think Vandy's up there. I
Yeah,
don't think
Vandy's
Florida's
way
up
down
there.
at the bottom of whatever tier you're going to put them in. They're at the bottom.
Who?
Vandy.
Oh yeah,
Look,
Florida's probably down there close to them too.
Florida's down
South
there,
Carolina.
right? Florida's not competing for this deal. Arkansas doesn't
Oh, hey,
seem.
what about Missouri? What about Missouri? Where are they at?
Missouri. You got to put Missouri right up there, right? Missouri's got to
Yeah,
be right up there, right at right in that second tier. As a matter of fact, I'd put them in that
yeah,
second tier.
yeah. I put Missouri up there. Yeah, the third tier is, or A&M's gonna be at the top of the third tier, but with the possibility to beat some of those tier 2 teams, I don't think they can beat Georgia right now. But they can beat on any given day, Alabama, Ole Miss, those kind of teams.
Look, I'll tell you this. I mean, I see what you're saying with Georgia for sure, and I understand that statement. I mean, we're not. I'm not going to pretend that we are in that conversation. I will tell you this. I do believe that this team's got enough talent to compete with anybody in the country on a Saturday to Saturday basis, right?
Right.
If Mike Elko and this staff do a good job, a really good job this coming year, they could go compete for an SEC championship. I believe that. I really believe that. They've got the talent on campus to do that. So it's up to them. It's up to them. But I wouldn't put them in that upper tier right now because I haven't seen them do it, right?
Right.
I haven't seen them do it. I wouldn't put them in that second tier even,
No.
like you. I would put them maybe in that third tier, right in there with Tennessee and teams of that ilk, right?
Right.
I think that's the right place for if you are not an Aggie and you are trying to be objective about this, that's got to be where you rank them. And that doesn't mean that's where they end up next year because, Missouri at the beginning of this year was in a tier way further down and they ended up right up at the top, right? They go
Right.
on, and finish the season with a win over an Ohio State team, right? So you do get you do get the opportunity to go prove it on the field at the end of the day. And those coaches are the guys that have to go do it, right? Those coaches have got to put that team in a position to go do it. I do, and so I do like exactly what you did with those rankings right there. I think it is
Where do
Georgia.
you put I forgot about LSU. Where do you put LSU at? They right there with A&M.
I think LSU's also in that third tier, yeah. And the reason I put them in the third tier versus the second tier is that one, they lost the Heisman winning quarterback, right? I mean,
Right.
that alone takes a little bit off of what, but they also lost their 2 top receivers. and their offensive coordinator, which ultimately may be the biggest loss of this whole thing. And so, that hurts. They're replacing their entire defensive staff, which once again, kind of like the idea with the coach over at whatever, you can only go up from what they did last year, right? That defense was as bad as it's ever been. They did pull the defensive line coach from Texas, Davis, and they brought him into the mix. I think that's a great addition. He's obviously done a great job with the folks that he had over at Texas. So you got to think that, and he's going back to LSU. He was previously at LSU, so he's going back. What they do end up doing with that defensive staff obviously going to be important. They're still, I wonder whether they're going to take a step back this year, though, because of the fact that offensively, I believe that Nussmeier is probably a pretty good quarterback. Every time we see him, he's done pretty well.
Right.
What's he going to do? They always have receivers. I mean, I know their top two guys are leaving, but they always have receivers. So what's that offense going to look like a little bit? I think they still take a step back. And the defense was so bad, I'm not sure that they've got the talent to be a top 10 defense, right? The question
Right.
is, can they be a middle of the pack defense with a great offense? I don't know.
Well, that offense will definitely take a step back. He's a good quarterback, but he's no Daniels. He doesn't have the mobility. Daniels, I mean, if play broke down, he was gone. He was great at that. So I don't
Yeah.
see that because I think that they're going to miss that a lot. That
And
aspect of the game.
especially because that offensive line hasn't been dominant as it was years and years ago, right? So that offensive line
Right.
has been sort of mediocre or whatever. And, without having, Daniels made them look a lot better than they were this past year, because he would take some of those plays where they screwed things up and then, go score touchdowns, like 50-yard touchdowns on them.
Yeah, it would. Impressive.
So bringing it back to A&M, then, I mean, I think we both agree that they're sort of currently in that little third tier there. What's the upside and what's the downside? I mean, what's the ceiling? What's the floor?
For A&M?
Yeah, for this team in the SEC in 2024.
Well, I'd like to know exactly who is coming back and who's not, but the way I see it right now, I mean, I could see us, I don't know, I could see us a top competing for a championship this year, especially with the schedule that we have. I mean, the schedule helps us out. We got Texas here, we got Notre Dame, right?
At home.
Yeah, yeah. I mean,
LSU
but
LSU at
there's a
home.
lot of things we don't know about. We don't know if the offensive line. We think the offensive line's got to be better. It all depends on the offensive line. I'll tell you that much right now. I'm not worried about the defense. The defense, I think, will come along. If that offensive line can protect it all, we should score a lot of points and be exciting.
Yeah, and I guess it's a good time to talk about some of the work that the staff has done in the transfer portal. I don't know. They've got something like 21 transfers or something coming in. And they've hit the positions that they really needed, in all honesty. If you ask me, that's the big part, right? We talked about the fact that this group needed help at cornerback, right? And in the defensive backfield. And we talked about the fact that they're going to need some depth and help at wide receiver. And they've done both of those things. Then all of a sudden, with the movement at the defensive line spot, then you started to feel like, okay, they're going to need some help at defensive line, right? And
Right.
so, as that all happened, that sort of changed where the coaches had to focus some of the attention, but they hit it, right? They hit it. They hit it with the guys that they brought in. And look, let's start a defensive line, because you can talk about the fact that they got basically the best defensive end in the transfer portal, the guy, out of Purdue, right? And
Right.
that's a huge, huge get. Huge get.
So, hey, real quick, is he a one and done guy, or does he have more than 1 year? Do you know?
I expect him to be a one and done guy. Yeah.
Okay, I didn't know if he was just if he only had 1 year eligibility or. I
You
just
know,
hope
I
he's
think
really as good as he. I'm trying to get to a question here. Would you rather have a guy like that or a 5-star freshman coming in that's not going to play and be effective, but you can get him built up the way you want him? What
you
would you
need
rather
both.
have?
You need both. You
Well, you
know,
need both, but you don't have both.
here's the thing, and I think you see it. Um, you see it in college football now. The best teams recruit really well and then fill holes, right, in the transfer portal. And unfortunately for Elko, in the first year, there's more transition than you normally would.
Right.
Hopefully, and so he had to go strong on the portal, right? I mean, he had to go pretty doggone strong on the portal, and he's done that. He's done that, and I've just pulled the list up here. 21 incoming transfers. Nick Skirton is the guy there from Purdue, the edge guy. I mean, he's as good as they get when it comes to that. I'm a big time producer, but other guys in the defensive line, Cassius Howell, Bowling Green, a guy that was highly regarded in the transfer portal anyway, on the defensive line. And then you get another guy like defensively, like Scooby Williams out of Florida, who plays some linebacker, right? Is going to help in in a place where we lost the best linebacker in the SEC. So those guys on defense are big. Rodis Johnson, the guy from Wisconsin, more of a big interior guy, right? So he filled those pieces. Now remember here, and Corey, we've talked about this, right? It's not this team doesn't have a deficit of talent at the defensive line. I mean, they still got talent. They just needed some depth, right? And I think that the guys that they brought in actually are going to have an opportunity to play, number one, but be contributors. And maybe, especially with Nick, be big time contributors, right? So,
I hope
so,
so.
so defensive line wise, I think they did a great job of sort of putting things around a guy like Hicks, a guy like Shamar Turner, a guy like Brunlow Dindy, a guy like White and Silla, and I mean, why am I blanking on the big kid inside? The Samu, the big freshman, this
Yeah.
past year.
Did you already say Bindo? Did you say
Brunlow Dindy, yeah. I mean, and so you get. I think that the combination of talent with the guys that we have in there, pretty darn good start. Bringing in a guy obviously this year, also Dylan Evans, a recruit to put together with that big. Now we lost the other big time recruit, defensive line guy, over to LSU, but that's fine. That's going to happen. I think together that puts us in a pretty good place. We talked about the linebacker there, but the other big spot defensively that we talked about was corner, right? I mean, and this is where he's done such a phenomenal job. I mean, they've got so many guys. BJ Mays, a cornerback from I don't even know what school that is. The Dragons.
oh yeah, Youngstown team they're talking about?
Yeah. So but fairly decently rated there. Let's see. Jaden Hill, the guy from the Gators, right? You look at Hill, Will Lee, the quarterback from Kansas State, very highly regarded. Donovan Saunders is another guy that's very highly regarded. So they've got a bunch of guys, not to mention a couple of safeties and Ratcliffe and so on and so forth. Wright, another guy. So they brought in players in the positions that they needed. And I think this defense is definitely sitting there in a year of transition where you're thinking, okay, not only are we changing coordinators, obviously, and systems here defensively, but talent-wise, you're replacing some guys, and you got to fill some holes here. And so with McKinley Jackson gone, with Walter Nolan gone, with Chappelle, Harmon, all those guys gone, Cooper that was the stud of this defense throughout the year. You're going to have to rebuild this defense, and now they've got players and guys and bodies to go in and do that. It's we've talked about it. I didn't like the hires Elko made with this defensive staff, but that's okay. I don't have to like them. If they come in and prove me wrong. Come in and do what you
Right.
do. Go put a defense out there that's at the top of this conference, towards the top of this conference. I think this team's going to have an opportunity to compete. I'm not worried, like I said before, I'm not worried about this team offensively. I think offensively they're going to score some points. This defense, if they can get this transfer portal talent together to come in, play, and then the coaching staff come in together, get them to play, then all of a sudden you are going to be able to move this team from that tier 3, where I think that we just currently put them, into that tier 2 kind of category. And I don't hesitate in saying that.
No, I hear you. I mean, I like what they've done with the transfer portal myself. I like the cornerbacks and safeties you talked about. They're bigger guys. They had a bunch of little guys out there last year, and you saw it in matchups against LSU, Alabama, and Ole Miss. Wide receivers that were bigger just went up and got the ball. But I mean, as long as these receivers or cornerbacks can keep up with these receivers, I'll be happy with that. I mean, I've NIL. I have to get used to it. I'm starting to get used to it. I was a big guy on recruiting before. Now it's almost like you have to play ball 50-50. You have to recruit half the time, NIL half the time. It's just I can't imagine being a head coach right now in college football.
It's a crazy, crazy time, man. It's a crazy, crazy time. Look, we can, and obviously, if you got something else you want to hit on here, we're more than happy to do that. But sort of put a bow on this whole thing, right? There's two sides in my head right now, man. I'm sort of split, man. I'm sort of in this place where I like Saban. I just like Saban don't love where the sport's going with NIL and all the money involved, and everything's about money and what you can give me and yada yada. I don't like where this sport is going. That's one side of me, sort of, The other side of me is thinking, man, 12-team playoff this coming year. If it would have been here this year, that'd have been the most exciting freaking time in college football ever, right?
Yeah,
The
I
12-team
agree.
playoff this year would have been phenomenal.
Yeah,
Absolutely phenomenal, right?
I agree. But I just think once we get 12, pretty soon they're going to be asking for 16. Then it's going to be 24. And, it's just going to keep going up because everybody's going to have an
See,
argument
and
they should have been in.
that's my question,
Everybody will
because
have an argument.
that's my question, because I
Where's
believe,
it stop?
I actually think that next year, when we actually have the 12-team playoff, it's going to be a snooze fest in the first round. I think there's going to be a drop off between the first top tier 6 teams, let's say, and the next 6 teams, 6 to 8, 10, whatever.
I think the number 5 or 16 in the nation would have won the national championship if there had been a 12-team playoff. I think Georgia would have won it all.
Well, and that's why I said I think it, but yes, I don't disagree with you there.
Yeah.
I don't disagree with you there. What I'm saying is, I think that that first round of games this year, where you had the first 4 in buys, and you had 5 through 12 playing in that first round, other than maybe that 5-12 matchup, because it was probably going to be Liberty or somebody.
Yeah.
The rest of those
They
games
played Florida State
games, right?
They would have played Florida State.
The Florida State and Liberty, whatever. But the first, I guess my point is, other than maybe one game there where you had a team like Liberty get in at number 12, every other matchup would have been awesome. Like a matchup you want to see,
Yeah.
And a game that probably is a pretty good game.
No, I hear you. I mean, that's the thing it's going to be every year is the 12 seed will always be that group of 5 or whatever it is, whoever it is that gets in, right? They're always going to be the team that nobody's getting respect to, like it was Liberty this year. Next year, I don't know who a group of 5 team is supposed to be good, maybe SMU, right? But they're going to the Big 12 or ACC or something, so it won't be them. But it'll be some team that you're like Tulane. Those teams should get
next year. There'll be 2 of them, right? So next year there's going to be 2 of them because it's the top 6 conference champions, isn't it? And the Pac-12 no longer exists.
Who are the 6 conferences you're talking about?
It doesn't matter. It's the top 6 conference champions, the top 6 ranked conference champions.
Yeah, that kind of dilutes the pool a little bit. I like to see good games.
So I guess my point is that, and so where I was going with this is that in this year, I thought that would have been the most amazing freaking 12-team playoff ever. I'm not sure that that's going to be the case next year. I think next year that first round is going to be garbage. That first year is going to be 4 blowouts in the first round, or maybe 3 blowouts and 1 decent game in the first round, and then maybe from there it starts to get a little bit better, right? And probably
Right.
a couple more blowouts in the second round, and then you get into the group of when you get down to 4 or 6 or whatever that you start to look at that. So I just don't think that it's going to be as exciting as it would have been this year. But I do think that if it is as exciting as it was this year, I think that to me is a positive for college football and would be energizing again, give you hope that this game is getting better, not worse, right? And
Right.
and so that's the other side to me. It's like, well, there's a potential here for some really, really cool football happening in the next couple of years if sort of things don't just absolutely go haywire with NIL and everything else.
Yeah, I agree.
Ultimately, most importantly, at the very least, we think now with a 12-team playoff, maybe the Aggies have a chance. Maybe the Aggies have a chance.
Maybe. I don't know what next year. I mean, I'm optimistic, but like I said, I'm not going to go in thinking, hey, we're making a 12 team. I just want us to be competitive. I like to see a 9-3, 8-4 season the first year with Elko, and just I want to see growth. I want to see the offensive line do better. I mean, if that offensive line does better, we're talking 10-2, 11-1. And all
No,
you have to
10 and
do, I
2.
mean,
10 and 2
I'm
has the
not worried
potential to
about the
get you in.
defense. I like I said, like you named the players a little bit ago. Yeah, we're losing a lot on the defense, but we got talent on the defensive side. We got talent on the offensive side. It's coaching is what I was worried about, and we've been worried about that.
Yeah. All right.
So,
So closing thoughts, man. Anything?
well, a couple things real quick. We didn't talk about Bill Belichick's gone from the
Oh yeah.
Patriots, which is big. Pete Carroll's gone. There's 7 coaching openings in the NFL right now. And I hear that Belichick might be going to Washington, is what I heard. It's like a rumor, which
Your Washington football team.
I mean, I like Bill Belichick. I don't want the Belichick now. I want the Belichick of, 10, 15 years ago.
I'd take Belichick now and 15 years ago. I mean, I still think he's a hell of a coach. I wouldn't give him the reins of the GM, right? I wouldn't give him the reins of the personnel, man. Let somebody else do the drafting. Let somebody else put the team together, and then Bill, you coach him up.
Hey, real quick while I got you, NFL, the playoffs start this weekend. Browns at the Texans. Who you like?
Texans, baby.
Texans.
Texans, baby.
Texans are up by 10 in the second quarter right now, 24-14. Dolphins at the Chiefs, playing in like subarctic weather. Evidently, it's like freaking cold.
The Chiefs, all day, every day.
Okay, I like them too. Packers at the Cowboys. Cowboys -7.
I think the Cowboys win this game. I think the Packers make it closer than people expect.
Okay. Rams at the Lions. Lions favored by 3. Stafford's coming back to Detroit. Big
This is an
game.
interesting game to me. I don't know which way I'm going to go here. I favor the Lions. I think they're the more talented team. But
Yeah.
man, I've been super impressed with what those guys have done in LA this year. Stafford and those guys. I mean, nobody expected anything from them this year. They lost a bunch of guys and all this stuff, and man, they play super hard. McVay's done a phenomenal job, I think, this year. So I wouldn't take them out of the running. I still think the Lions are the more talented team, and I guess I'm going to go with them. And obviously, we got an Aggie. We got an Aggie at the head of that deal. So let's take the Lions.
How explain? Okay, 2 more games real quick. The Steelers at the Bills. Bills favored by 10. The game's
Yeah,
on Monday now. I got moved to
yeah,
Monday.
yeah,
Who do you like? You like the Bills?
yeah. I like the Bills.
I do too. Eagles at the Bucks. Eagles -3.
I'm
No,
gonna go
no AJ
upset
Brown.
special here. Upset special. I'm taking the home underdog.
Philadelphia.
Home dog.
Gotcha.
No,
And
Bucks.
then another going back to the Lions, you're talking about that talented team, that receiver, Amon St. Brown or whatever.
Yes.
One of the top receivers in the league, right?
Yeah.
He makes the first team all pro, right?
Uh-huh.
But he doesn't get selected to the Pro Bowl, is what I hear. Is that right? How's that happen? How are you first team All Pro and you don't make the Pro Bowl?
There's Antoine Winfield over there in Tampa, is the safety at Tampa, is also an All Pro, first team All Pro, and not a Pro Bowler.
What? How does
Look,
that make any sense?
number one, the Pro Bowl's a joke. The Pro Bowl's a joke, so nobody cares.
Who picks the Pro Bowl players?
I don't know. No, don't know. Don't care. It's probably fans.
I don't get it. How are you first team All Pro, but you're not on the Pro Bowl? I
Look,
don't get it.
I,
Ah.
that's one thing I'm not going to spend much time on, because if there's nothing less important than an All-Star game, nothing less important than an All-Star game.
All right, another question for you. Where does Jim Harbaugh go next year? Is he coaching in Michigan or is he in the NFL? If so, what team?
I'm going to tell you what. I don't think Jim Harbaugh leaves.
Okay.
I think he stays in Michigan. And I'm saying this because I feel like there's no stronger connection for a football player, football coach, than his alma mater. You know?
They got J.J. McCarthy as the number 5 quarterback right now. It's one of those I can't remember who it was that had a number 5.
Whoever
He
drafts
leaves.
him is going to regret it. That's all I can tell you.
He didn't. I mean, he seems like he cocks his arm a little bit too much when he throws it. He's got. I mean, I think he needs some work. I like the kid, but
I like
I
the
think he
kid
needs
too. I like the kid fine, but I don't. I wouldn't take him. I wouldn't take him in the first 4 rounds of the draft.
Harbaugh, I think, will be with the Chargers next year. That's my call. I think he likes Justin Herbert. I like it, or whatever. Hey Bear Herbert, whatever you want to call him. Well, I think that right there. But that's all I got right now.
Hey, but let me ask you this: if that's the case, why wouldn't he have already announced it that he's leaving anyway?
Probably negotiating, trying to get the most money, seeing where all these chips are falling. I mean, Pete Carroll just left Seattle. I don't think Seattle's a bad position. New England's already got their coach. That was a weird story. Did you read that? Evidently, the guy, when he signed his contract to be the linebackers coach, said in his contract he was a successor to Bill Belichick. Isn't that weird?
I love that hire, by the way. I love that hire.
Mayo?
I do. You know what? I hate. You know me. I hate the retreads, man. I hate the
Yeah.
freaking retreads. Like everybody's like, oh, okay, well, let's go. Maybe they'll hire Vrabel. It's like, why would you go hire Vrabel?
Heard that. Yeah, I heard that too.
Vrabel's been there, done it, man. And what he win? Nothing. You know what I mean?
I didn't really think Vrabel was a bad coach. I thought he did the best with the talent he had at Tennessee.
I don't know. I thought he.
That's just my thoughts.
Yeah. I mean, he's had some good years, but he hadn't won anything. I'm not. And Vrabel's not really the guy that I'm trying to attack here. You know, it's like these. You know, man, there's so many of them though, right? Like
This
somebody's
is one
going
of
to
the
try to give
craziest coaching
McDaniel.
seasons that I've seen.
Somebody's going to try to give McDaniel another shot. You know, the offensive coordinator for the Patriots or whatever. Like,
Patriots, yeah.
that guy's he's been hired and fired twice, and I don't think he's made it out of like he's just horrible, right? I mean, I don't understand it.
But I
And
mean, I haven't seen a coaching season like it was this year between college and NFL with coaches leaving, retiring. You know, I haven't seen anything like it.
yeah, the legends of the game, man.
Oh yeah, Pete Carroll, he didn't want to leave. His team wasn't that bad. They almost made the playoffs. I think they were what, 8,
Exceeded
9, and 8.
expectations, I would say.
Huh?
Exceeded expectations.
Yeah, I mean, you got Geno Smith at quarterback, which isn't terrible. You got a couple good wide receivers, a defense that I can't name too many of their defensive players. You know, you got a right tackle and a left tackle that are in their first or second year. You know,
Yeah, look,
Carroll knows how to build a program. I'll tell you that much.
it's
If he goes anywhere,
it's a
he
weird
can put
year
a young
for
team.
him to get fired over there, just because there's been other years when they've really been worse and
Yeah,
underperformed their talent, and he stuck around, right? And this year, it seems like he did a pretty good job, and now he's on his way out. They always say, well, be careful what you wish for, because you got to replace the guy. And I agree with that to a certain extent, but you know me, I don't believe in the fact that you keep a mediocre coach just to not hire somebody else that's worse or something like that, right? Give some young guy a chance. Go give some young guy a chance and see if he's better. If you're going to
what did you
fire
think
somebody,
about
do that.
what did you think about the job Sean Payton did at Denver?
They were better. They were
Were they?
better. Was he
They
great?
won games.
Yeah, they
I
won.
mean,
They
they
won
got
one
beat
game.
by 70 or something to one game. It was like one of the biggest
It was early in the season too, right? They got better as the
So
season went along. They got better as the season went along.
they benched Russell Wilson the last game or two of the season, all
Well,
over contract to make sure he didn't get hurt.
Sean Payton should have never opened his mouth about the guy that was there previously, Hackett or whatever. But the fact
Yeah.
of the matter is, he wasn't wrong. Hackett is one of the worst coaches in the NFL, and he's still getting paid millions of dollars to be the offensive coordinator in Green Bay. In New York, and how good was that offense?
Terrible. Well, they
Terrible.
said,
Terrible.
why did the Jets keep their coach? I don't even understand why they kept the coach.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think it probably has a lot to do with the fact that they lost their quarterback, and they felt like, well, you don't fire the guy on the fact of the matter is that defense is really good. Saleh's done a great job with that defense, hasn't he? I mean, and so maybe you give him one more shot with Rodgers coming back and see what happens. I would have fired Hackett by now if I were him, though. I mean, he'd have been off my payroll. So I don't know. I mean, look, I am almost getting to the point. I've always thought that the great majority of NFL coaches are guys that basically aren't innovators, right? They're followers, and those guys oftentimes expect college players to come in and already be technically sound players, right? And they don't develop them as much in the technique and basics of playing football as much as they probably should and could. Not all of them, but a lot of them. And
Right.
I've always felt that the innovations come from college. And college, the innovations come from high school. And now you go look at college, and I feel like college is turning more like the pros, where these coaches are basically just all they're doing is copycat league, just like the NFL, copycat league. Whatever somebody else does, we're going to try to do it and replicate it. And the guys that are still the innovators and the best ones are still the guys that go and do the best, right? And I just, once again, you see these college programs all trying to do the same thing that everybody else is doing. And it's like, well, you never go do what somebody else is doing. Go do what you do, right? And make what you do good for your players. Make what you do good for the guys that you have in the locker room and for your coaching staff and those types of things. And every year needs to be adjusted that way, right? Every freaking
I agree.
So
I got one more question for you.
Level of coaching has gone down.
One more question. That's it for you. It's a guy. What do you think about the tush push? Should you get rid of it or keep it?
Nah, man. Don't get rid of the tush push. What are you gonna get rid of the quarterback sneak? Get out of here, man.
No, they was an illegal play for a long time. You couldn't push a player from the back. Remember?
Here's what I'm gonna tell you.
Yeah.
Like, defensive guys have to figure out how to stop it. That's all there is to it.
Because they're adding new wrinkles to it every day. Have you noticed that? They're starting to do end rounds with it, and I like it.
I love that. I love that.
I like it.
Yeah.
I mean, I like a play that people can't stop. You got to figure it out, right?
Figure it out, and then
Just don't take it away.
And here's the other thing: other teams are trying to do and then getting stuffed and all this stuff, and it's like, and instead the Eagles are adding other wrinkles to the damn thing. That's being at the front of the line. And don't get me wrong, I think the Eagles are in a bad place right now because the tush push is their best play.
It really is. I'd run it every play almost. I'd find different versions. I'd look like Army or Navy coming out there running this weird looking.
When the quarterback sneak is the play that people talk about the most in your arsenal, you're not in a good place, I don't think.
Yeah, not having Brown there against the Bucks would be dangerous.
I think they're going to lose that game. I actually think they're going to lose that game. I also think that as another example of the coaching carousel being a failure is Matt Patricia is now apparently their defense coordinator and calling plays there in Philadelphia. And that defense has only gotten worse since the day that he became the guy. By the way, Matt Patricia got fired for being one of the worst coaches in the league at the Lions, right? The moment he got replaced, that team got better. And then he goes to New England. And he gets fired in spite of, being with his mentor, Bill Belichick, over there. So Matt Patricia, bad coach. I don't care what anybody says. Bad coach. That's my soapbox today, Corey.
I enjoyed it.
Giga Mags, C Money, AP, out.